Hi, Elisa. Thank you for sitting down with me today to chat about training. Let's go back to the beginning. Tell me what got you into training and what your background is.
Absolutely. So I can actually trace this down to an exact moment. I was I was living in Alaska with my Malamute mix Cody. And I was working at an animal sanctuary giving talks about animal behavior. Now, previous to this, I had worked in human mental health. And so I thought it was kind of cool to see the parallels between
Yeah,
human behavior and animal behavior.
right?
So that was like one thing, but it never really occurred to me, that I could be a dog trainer until I was talking to this woman. It was actually like the day before I was about to leave and pack up and drive back to New York, and this woman was like, you should stay. And I laughed. And she was like, no, seriously. She's like, if you stay this winter, she's like, I'll pay you to train my two labs. And it was like this light bulb went off. Like, I was like, wow, like I could use what I know about dogs and I can use what I know about psychology and kind of merge the two together. So I didn't end up staying. I did drive back to New York, but I was able to enroll in a program to become a certified trainer.
See, that's so fascinating to me how, whenever I talk to trainers, everyone seems to kind of have that moment where it's like, this, this is what's going to work.
Yeah.
And it's so cool how different all of our backgrounds are that we come to that moment. And I love that. What do you love most about training, going on from there? And what is your favorite behavior to teach?
Okay. So for me, I'm really invested in behavior modification. And I think that for a lot of people, it can be extremely frustrating to not have a clear path, to work through their dog's anxiety or their reactivity. So I think one of the best things for me is that I get to help people kind of illuminate that path. And in doing so, I think people start to realize that like a more compassionate way of looking at their dog's anxious and reactive behavior is also a more constructive way of looking at that behavior. So, I think that that's really cool. A behavior that I love to train, honestly, because I'm such a practical trainer, my favorite is probably just teaching check ins. So, this is where you would just teach a dog that if there's something stressful or something that's maybe a little bit more exciting, to just turn their head and to look at you for a second. And I think that by practicing this behavior and creating a reinforcement history for this behavior, we can really help dogs work through a lot of their anxieties and a lot of their more impulsive responses.
I love it. One of the cool things for me is how each of you has picked a different favorite behavior, but they're all like foundation pieces. They're all those really critical, very simple sounding
Very
foundation
simple.
pieces
Yep.
that lead to so much more. And I love that. What is your favorite challenge?
This is a little bit broader, but I love working with difficult dogs. Like I love working with the dogs that people thought couldn't be helped. There's something about kind of just getting a person to the point where they kind of feel like they're a team with their dog. Just seeing the person like notice these little changes with the dog like as time goes on. It's not an overnight change,
Yeah.
but I think that it's really cool to see that when people are patient and when people are committed to the process, it's really, I think, one of the most rewarding things there is.
Awesome. I definitely agree with that. So, in the last year, it's been a bit of a wild ride. We've moved all of our classes from in person to online. The classes that you're teaching, because of the difficulties some of these dogs face in public spaces and shared spaces with other individuals, how has online training really lent itself to that type of learning process?
I think it's actually perfect. So, when you're working with dogs that are anxious or reactive, the best thing that you can do is just create this rock solid foundation with your dog in a space where they feel safe and where they're really able to focus and process new information. And so, really, the best space to do that is the dog's living room. That's honestly where the best learning happens, not just for the dogs but also for the people half of it as well. People do have dogs that have a lot of anxiety or have really intense reactivity, the last place you really want to be is in a classroom with a bunch of other dogs where you're just trying to kind of keep your dog like, engaged the whole time, and people get really lost in that. They have a hard time then focusing on the instructions.
Yeah, and of course, if the person is stressed, your dog's going to read that, and it
Yep,
just feedback loops the entire sequence. So,
exactly.
yeah, awesome.
So one of the things that I think has been really cool about these online classes is the sense of community that it's created. And I think it's cool because right now during the pandemic, I think a lot of people feel a little bit more disconnected. But I also think that when it comes to having a dog that is anxious or reactive, that also creates a little bit of a disconnect for people because they can't
Yes.
necessarily take that dog to the dog park, or they have to make sure that they're giving other people more space when they're going out for walks. So I think that these classes are really neat because it gives people that online community. It gives them that moral support. They see other people that are kind of practicing similar things with their dog, and that's, I think, very motivating to them. So, I think that that's been really special. And I'm hoping that even after the pandemic ends, that people kind of realize the value in this long term.
Absolutely. And that's such an important piece of it that you bring up, because we get that feedback a lot from people. So they really value the connection, not only with their trainers that they have in the online classes compared to in person in classroom, but also with other students. So it's really phenomenal. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
When you aren't training, what do you enjoy doing with your pups?
My favorite is I love being on the beach with them. I love going for hikes on quiet nature trails. The other really cool thing is that my kids, more and more, I think that they're developing the training bug. So that's been really cool to see as well. It's like literally all of my favorite things coming together.
Love that so much. Well, thank you for making the time to chat with us today.
Yep.
And we look
Thank you.
forward to so many more wonderful classes to come.
Aw-
So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Juliet.